President Juncker, Your Majesties, Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear friends, I would like to thank President Juncker and the Commission for inviting me to join you at the opening ceremony of the 12th edition of the European Development Days. I believe that to achieve the equal, equitable and full participation of women within the countries of the European Union, we must unite our efforts to promote effective strategies for the socio-economic inclusion of all our women and girls. We must admit that gender inequality and the barriers that women face to achieve quality economic empowerment remains one of the biggest challenges to the successful implementation of our global commitment for inclusive growth. The international community has endorsed this objective in the United Nations Agenda 2030 and its 17 Sustainable Development Goals. SDG 5 targets the need for gender equality and for the empowerment of women and girls as part of our united journey towards equality, equity, and justice for all. Gender parity does not only promote peaceful and just societies, but as research shows, it contributes substantially to global economic growth. Women's economic empowerment involves access to adequate resources, to education, and to capacity building. It must also involve the recognition of the care economy within which women are highly represented. We must do more to create opportunities for women to be participants in decision-making across the social and economic spheres of our countries. Furthermore, we all know that the social and economic empowerment of women does not end with women themselves, but it leads to the enrichment of our families, our communities, and our societies as a whole. However, dear friends, there is a big difference between knowing that a thing is right and doing the right thing. We must admit that we are not moving fast enough to realistically achieve the empowerment of women and girls across the world. We are still a long way off from reaching a fully gender-equal society in all the countries of the European Union. The latest European Institute for Gender Equality Index states that in some areas, the gaps or inequalities are even bigger than they were 10 years ago. According to the latest data from Eurostat, full-time working women in the European Union would need an average rise of 19% of their hourly wage to match male wages. Although reports from Eurostat tell us that women are successful in gaining qualifications, their subsequent careers are more interrupted, less well paid, and often result in lower pensions. Even the latest Global Gender Gap report, commissioned by the World Economic Forum for 2017, states that gender parity is shifting into reverse for the first time since the World Economic Forum started measuring it. Within the European Union, specifically, the European Institute for Gender Equality Index states that progress in the economic participation of women has slipped backwards in 12 countries. I would like to encourage us all, during these European Development Days, to take up more effective strategies for the increased inclusion of women in the socio-economic sectors of our Union and beyond. An effective strategy from my own country is the implementation of access to free childcare centres. This has contributed to a 6% increase of female participation in the Maltese workforce over 5 years. I am convinced that a key area for further progress must be to address the huge gaps in occupational activities, which often emanate from imbalances in the education and employment opportunities and the policy strategies of our countries. According to the most recent indicators from Eurostat, a significant contributor to the gender pay gap in all countries of the European Union is the fact that women are being pushed into entering relatively low-paid sectors. Europe is making considerable strides forward in terms of legislation and policy. However, we are not keeping up the same pace to achieve the much-needed mental and cultural leap to overcome prejudice, patriarchal oppressions, discrimination, and socially sanctioned abuses of privilege. Such discrimination does not only exist in the spheres of economic participation and employment. If women and girls do not feel safe, protected, and respected, then their place within our economies will never truly reflect their potential. For this reason, I am truly pleased that the European Union and the United Nations have come together in a powerful synergy to focus on the issue of ending violence on women and girls. This is being done through the Spotlight Initiative. We cannot achieve the full participation of women in the economic life of our countries, while women and girls are still subject to unacceptable threats to their safety and well-being. 1 in 3 women in the European Union has been a victim of physical and/or sexual violence since the age of 15. 1 in 20 women in Europe have been the victims of rape. 55% of women have been victims of sexual harassment. 1 in 3 women has experienced abuse by a partner. This data from the European Commission is evidence of the need to support projects such as the Spotlight Initiative and the recently established European Observatory on Femicide, which is a collaboration between 8 countries, including Israel, and which is located at the University of Malta. These projects represent an essential investment in our aspirations to end all forms of violence and discrimination against women. I would like to encourage our European authorities to extend their spotlight to this vital work and support the expansion of the European Observatory on Femicide across the European Union. In this context, it is of utmost importance that the Council of the European Union continues to push for the implementation of the Istanbul Convention in order to more effectively address our concerns. On concluding, let us continue working together to build a world in which the dignity and identity of every woman and girl is not only safeguarded, but most importantly, celebrated. We all have the responsibility to act now. Let us work together to continue empowering women and girls to effectively address the underlying challenges which are causing a widening gender pay gap and to end all forms of gender-based violence. Equality is not about destroying or distorting the differences between women and men. Equality is about embracing diverse people of all genders and creating a context in which each and every person can pursue their legitimate aspirations and be respected in the fullness of their human dignity. Thank you.